Takeover, Takeout event. And it usually entails.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh,
It's okay. It happens.
one of Fransisco's sculptures fell.
Brand new sculpture.
I actually haven't even looked at everything that's in here yet. Do you want to start by giving just like a quick spiel about your work or your interests or why you do things?
Yeah, so why I do things, that's a hard one. It's very impulsive and it's very like, kind of like in the moment. But how I like to start is by accumulating objects. Usually it's like by chance. A lot of the times it's stuff that I've acquired over years. Like this started as like 4, and then I just kept acquiring or putting myself in situations where I'm available to pick up some 5-gallon things of water, right? And then now I have like 10 at the house. So I needed to do something. So it happens like that, you know? It's like I don't look for the objects, they find me somehow. But I like to put them together in very precarious, delicate situations. I try to make use of what they are. Like the tread on the bike, I try to make it so that it uses the tread abstractly, right? So that it holds itself in place. So I try to make use of whatever is available by the material and then play off of that. As an example is this one, like this uses like compression tension, holding it together. And then the gravity itself as well. So I like to do those things where like the touch is doing most of the work. Instead of me finding a way to build something, it's like they're leaning on each other kind of thing.
I've noticed in your work that you hardly ever introduce like fixing mediums, you know? Like it is really all the objects holding themselves. It all feels very like temporary.
Yes. So that goes back to like, you're an artist and like you're using medium, like materials and stuff, and what happens after that? And like that comes from being a printmaker. I have sacks like this, like thousands of dollars worth of paper with prints that are never gonna sell, or like I don't know what to do with, you know? It's like I had them under my bed and then it got too lumpy, so I had to take them somewhere else, and now I don't know what to do with all this material. And that kind of like problem, especially when it's something that's 3D, it's like, what do you do with objects after they've, you know, done the art thing, you know, after they've like turned into art objects, like what do you do with them? So I gave myself the limit of like not making permanent things. Like I can take this apart and I can go refill it and use it as a water thing. After this is done being art, I want to recycle it. I want to like make sure that it has a nice end, right?
Because you spend so much time gathering, I've always been kind of curious, like what your parameters are for studio time. Like, are you always thinking about what you're going to be making because you're always gathering things? Or is there kind of like a mental transition when you come into your studio and you're rearranging? Or tell us about your process.
Okay, my process. I was talking to your dad earlier too. Like, well, like my favorite is whenever I wake up and it's like, you have this, like, go do this right now. It's when you wake up with an idea and it's like, well, that came out of nowhere. So I'm a big believer in like, okay, like subconscious, like stuff just happens. Subconsciously you're working on stuff. And so yeah, that's me. I'm always like restless. I'm always thinking about stuff. And so I'm a consumer, a big consumer of stuff. Like we all are, but I think about the stuff like before I throw it away, and so like I'm always I can't get off of it, you know. I can't get off of that train. Like I'm always thinking about trash because I'm constantly producing like waste materials.
That's true.
So it's I'm always thinking about it. I'm not thinking about how I'm gonna make like an artwork with like this piece of trash, right? But that is always there. It's like, where am I gonna put this? Like, which receptacle am I gonna put this in?
Right.
I have a cup full of like little banana peels in my car. Like it's hard to describe without, like, I'm not always working, but I'm always like aware of those things.
Like, say it hasn't been one of those days where you wake up and you have like a guiding thought and you come to the studio anyway. Like, how do you navigate when you're in here?
Oh, cleaning.
Yeah?
Yeah. I like arranging. Oh yeah, that's like the biggest thing. It's like moving things. Like, okay, what if we move this over there? And then just being able to like touch, handle. Like sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes like you get a splinter, or sometimes it becomes too heavy, or you become aware of like your body. Like, oh, I have a pain in my left hip right now. It's like just handling objects. It's like a way of sketching.
Yeah.
It's like, and also like sweeping up stuff. Like you see like the debris from like the day before, or like the week, or like those little guys. Like, oh, they were here earlier. Why don't we do something with that, right? You know, that's kind of like morbid, but there's things like that. Like, okay, you have to try those things.
Can you talk a little bit more about the context for reusing and finding materials, like artists that you maybe looked at before that did this well?
Oof. I really like the Arte Poveras people, like alternate materials for art making. I really like that. Using something that you recognize from regular life and then seeing it in another context for art. And all the Fluxus people and all the Mexico like artists from the 90s. Gabriel Orozco, Cruz Villegas, like all the people that worked with traveling studios, like walking around and like seeing things in the light, in the wild. So that's the kind of like art that like informed me when I was like in grad school. Janice Cornelis was huge for me. Like symbolism and like knowledge and all that stuff.
Talk about like you have accumulations of things. It sounds like sometimes you gather them because they're available, sometimes because maybe they feel like they're going to be an art project. But then also it sounds like you're gathering like digital collections too, through photos. Are there other like digital avenues through which you accumulate things?
Digital avenues, just screenshots. I screenshot a lot of stuff. I never look at it. You know, I never. Instagram, I just like follow everybody that's like recommended to me. It's like follow.
Yeah.
TikTok, the same things. Like. Until there was a point in my TikTok account where I couldn't like anymore.
Really?
I couldn't follow. I hit the limit, and I was like, okay. So I have to go back to the like 10,000. I think 10,000 is the limit. I have to go back to the 10,000 and like start deleting people that I've never seen before in my life, in like my feed anymore. So I had to start another TikTok account.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm like
no,
that.
back
I'm
up
like
a little
that.
bit. So you reached the point with your TikTok followers, kind of like with your little coffee pucks, where like you're not allowed to keep them anymore. Is it as painful with your followerships as it is with actual objects that you have to let go of?
No. I mean, at first it was like, I'm never gonna hear that person talk about that stuff again.
Yeah.
And at first it was like hurtful, but then you get over it. There's another place. You know?
Yeah.
There's other places.
Yeah.
And also that was like kind of like you should not be on TikTok that long. Like, get off of TikTok. It's not, it's a problem.